The contestation was that, I mean, we know where the contestations stem from.
That
there was
she
no
was
will.
A princess?
She was a princess.
No,
the culture and traditional
our
customs.
Our custom. Our custom. Even to the educated, by the way, it is another thing also. They don't live, people you can imagine, even a judge of that caliber didn't have a will, you see? And I don't think that it was a question of...
So you think the ruling was unfair to you?
Culturally speaking, as a Pan-Africanist and a chairman at that, and somebody that has been at it for quite a long time, I would not call the judgment unfair, but it is a bit disturbing. Now, why? Because let me just qualify my statement. She actually, Lady Justice, went further to say, you know, let me leave that. We all have read the judgment. But what I noticed as a lawyer was that there was a little bit of sitting back on the part of the ambassador.
Oh.
Yes, when you look at what he had to say, what did his lawyer have to say, he just sat back and as if to say, I have a marriage certificate, everybody knows I'm an ambassador, that's it.
Okay, are there lessons to pick from this particular incident? Just one?
Yes,
and we go.
Yes, absolutely. One, let's leave wills. Two, let's try to culture our children, because I didn't find the children, with all due respect, I think they should have done it better, even when there was an arbiter, because our former president Gimara and colleagues tried to come in to try to provide that out of court kind of settlement, which was also neglected.
All right, Richard, make your contribution on this tricky, but well, it has been settled.
No, I think for me, one is that it was because it was this level of people. This will happen all the time.
But it has not been happening.
These fights over corpses, because you see, corpses are not just corpses. Corpses are property human beings. Corpses are coveted former parents, although they are dead now.
Intrinsic value.
There is intrinsic value. But also, people are continuing with previous conflicts.
Okay.
These are manifestations of continued conflicts. They are egos, that they are, you know, in my language we say nkuchara. I am higher or better or stronger or this. So when we don't see those other related circumstances which really drive this whole, in my view, very shameful occurrences, then we have a problem. My brother here talked about the late Bob
Kasango.
Yes, Kasango.
Frankly, some of these things are unnecessary, but they will continue happening, particularly because we have become materialistic. We have become increasingly material. In fact, when we talk about culture, for me, we have a material culture that is taking over everything, every other culture. So we have been very material. I tell people we have become urbanite. Look at all the functions we have that are supposed to be traditional. Nothing traditional about them. Half of it is traditional, half of it is exported or imported or whatever from elsewhere or copied and pasted, sometimes without thinking through the logic behind those cultural practices. So this was unfortunate. It happened. It is going to happen again. Obviously, we are going to have, if people are high profile like these ones are, it will dominate the headlines.
It is,
if they are low profile like some of us, then we want to know.
Oh. It is unfortunate that you predict, I don't call it doom, but you predict that it will happen again and again. But can't we pick lessons from here and move and prepare for what happens tomorrow?
Yeah, I think what human beings, many of us, what we usually do is to pick lessons to pick the lessons, we repeat the same mistakes. We tend, as human beings, we tend to repeat the same mistakes that those ones before us have done. I can tell you, we want to write wills. You rightly said we need to write wills. We want to write them. That one you are going to see. Many of us will not have wills. so these things. I mean, really, I'm sorry. I'm not predicting.
Including you don't have a will.
I'm not predicting doom. You see, I told you, my father, my late father, called me and said, I'm not writing a will, I don't have a will. But I have 7 wills of others. So I'm telling you that when I go, then you know where they are and you return them. I said, old man, you know, how come you have 7 wills of other people, they have trusted you and you don't want to write? I said, no, I'm not going to write any. So we are not going to write them. And we know. We have seen the consequences, but
if there was, if the late justice had left behind a will, won't it again
get contested?
Be contested?
Don't they? This is
yes.
a lawyer.
Oh yeah.
They get contested too. So if people are conflictors in a conflict, they have bad blood. There is a pulling of ropes. They will anyway. Good thing that the courts, fortunately, tell us where to go. Whether we like it or not, there we go.
But maybe just a statement. I listened very well to the eulogy of Ambassador Amago. And those who know him will tell you that he's a very amiable man. Very peaceful,
yeah, he welcomed the ruling and
even slightly before
and said,
yes,
let's move on. And
I do not want to really to dig into his life with his wife, and that would not be good discipline, honestly. But I want to say that probably taking a lesson from this, there is a way we should treat children. And children should actually relate with and respect the kind of relationships which their mother go into when they finally, because they have private lives. There is a way that children must appreciate the fact that a woman or a man must have the other in their lives. And I don't think this. Anyway.
Good. Let's move on. Let's move on. Dr. Daniel.
It's not easy.
Dr. Daniel Lugarama is a Pan-Africanist and the chairperson of the Pan-Africanist movement. Dr. Jared Wansara, the president, His Excellency, signed into law the Traffic and Road Safety Act 2023. It's an amendment, and we have Richard here, a strong supporter of road safety and all those regulations. Make your shot. And now, I don't know, somebody told me that the Subaru drivers must now think again. You after this law has been passed.
2
million from 200,000 a penalty or a fine. It has now been increased to 2 million and at least 3 years imprisonment for overspeeding. Looking at the circumstances, do you think this will reduce fatalities on Uganda's roads? Because the main objective in that amendment was to restore sanity on Uganda's roads. Dr. Gerard.
The issue of road safety and crashes on the road has been, you know, we have discussed it here a number of times. Over 20,000 crashes on the road a year. Statistics show that about 4,000 are fatal, where people lose lives to accidents. Of course, the speed issue has been one of them. I told you one time I saw a man between Chitintala and Luzira overtaking in a very potholed, you know, road, and wanted to branch in a bar and pork join. What is the hurry? about you going to eat pork. And so we see this every day. But speed is one of the contributors. But then we have a certain type of indiscipline. I think this law should have been stronger, like these border guys who just cross at traffic lights. They don't know anything about what green means, or they know, but there's just impunity. We have those. Then, but also there's a clarification. I think the law, if they are giving you the express, it's the express fees is 200,000. But when you argue or you fail to pay and they take you to court, that's when you'll be charged the 2 million shillings. So for me, I think I thank the Parliament for strengthening the law and the President for signing it, because we are fighting this vice every day, but the problem is not going. Actually, last year there was a 17% increase in accidents just in 1 year.
But is overspeeding the only driving factor behind the road accidents in Uganda?
No, we mentioned one. Just there's indiscipline, ill training. We mentioned issues of roads. Certain roads are very narrow, but of course if the road is very narrow, then you are expected to use your senses and you reduce the speed. You shouldn't speed as if you are on the express highway or the expressway. That's one of them. Then cars in a dangerous mechanical condition. So there are a number of factors. So if we could also improve, how do we license? Richard last time here mentioned even the issue of the garage, the mechanics and their garages. Who licenses them? Are they qualified? How do they, you know? Do you go to a certified mechanic to handle your car, or is just gambling, picking this from one car and fixing? Like you see what happens in our garages. So it is a whole system. Integrated, that if we can address one, but we need to address the others to significantly cause a change.
All right, maybe let me bring in Richard Baguma, an enthusiast of road safety. You were clapping, and it looks like the issue or the accidents will stop tomorrow, now that the law has been signed.
I wish.
You wish?
And pray. But we know realistically they won't. So this is the thing about these campaigns, the causes that I go for. Alcohol control, tobacco control, fighting drugs, road safety. They are informed by science. Yeah, we don't just jump in. So you just look at the statistics, the things that cause death. Road carnage is one of the 10 things that cause the highest number of deaths, both globally and nationally. So it's just a killer. But if you look at the causes that I and my colleagues that I champion, there are also things that cause death, destruction, disability, pain, loss, but are preventable too.
Oh.
Yes, avoidable.
Avoidable.
So they are the causes that I go into. And it is informed by statistics, by science. Consistently, the carnage that relates to roads is one of the 10 leading causes of death and disability globally. And you know the other consequences that come to health, to economics, to family welfare, to everything. So it is important and critical that we all get together and contribute a part to reducing these preventable problems. So I and a few of my colleagues, we have championed the Road Safety Coalition of Uganda, ROSACU. It's now registered, and we've been trying to mobilize resources to go in. We've found that actually there are many allies. There are allies in government, They are allies in the private sector. Let me tell you, Apollo, I do not think that many people in this TV station, and not TV, but the whole media group, I don't think they stop to think about the fleet of vehicles that are owned both by the group and the individuals within the group. If we could convince you that each of these organizations that have these fleets, so imagine the drink distribution companies in this country, how big are the fleets? Imagine the public transport, how big are the fleets? Imagine the cement and other building material distributors. If we all tried to have a zero, if our target was a zero crash, and we put in these initiatives, we would fundamentally reduce. Imagine the government vehicles.
To what extent do this law, help in curbing?
Yeah, and this is
and reducing on fatalities on the road.
This is the cherry picking of the media. I'm an editor, I'm a journalist, as you say. We do cherry picking, but especially the what do we call it? The journalism, the activist community journalism, the citizen journalism, which is the social media. We have picked out the 2 million.
Yeah.
For God's sake, the act has many very good.
But the amendment, that specifically the amendment.
No, I know the amendments. Yes. I have been part of the advocacy.
This recent amendment.
The only thing you have picked out in the amendments, no one has picked on the speed limits. No one talks about the alcohol limit. No one. Those are the factors that we are talking about. In built-up areas, we are saying drive at 30. This is global. By the way, this is a World Health recommended, approved by all our governments, including the government of Uganda. So these things we are saying are not from Mars. They are things that have been studied by science. The impact of a vehicle on a human being or anything else, when it's driving at 30,
it's huge.
The chances of death when you are driving at 30 are 10%.
Oh.
When you are driving at 60, it's 90%. It doubles. So these built-up areas around school zones, no one picked up that.
So overspeeding is a big factor in road crashes.
It's a huge factor, and we know it. Read the media, all the media stories. All the media stories now. The challenge has been that we categorize these things as all of them as reckless driving.
Yeah.
Everything we call it reckless driving. That has at law, the lawyer will tell you that does not then bring out the real. So those are the things we are trying to clarify. And no one explains that the 2 million only comes when you contest the fine that has been there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Conviction.
No one is saying this. So the cherry picking by the citizen journalists on the social media, as if the entire act is about the 2 million.
Okay.
And we also have regulations that have been passed this month. We are going to celebrate them. One of the major wins that we are not celebrating is road safety was not being given a budget. When we looked at the Ministry of Works then, road safety was being given 600 million. Now that has been increased to 5 billion.
Oh.
Almost a 100% increase. We say that is little.
So
but from a government perspective,
that is a positive.
That's a major win. These things, we are not celebrating them, we are not talking about them, we have tied ourselves.
But I remember, Richard, when we discussed this particular issue, you raised the issue of narrow roads.
Yes, absolutely.
Is it you and Gerard? You raised the issues of corruption.
Absolutely.
In enforcement of such laws.
Absolutely.
And that now takes us to whether this law will actually create impact and reduce the statistics that Gerard was reading here.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
how it comes.
Absolutely. You see,
the condition of the vehicles, the mechanical condition of vehicles.
The statistics are the statistics generally don't lie unless they are manipulated. There's no reason why these guys would be manipulating those. The largest contributor to all this is speeding. The single largest contributor. All these contribute. Black spots, of course, those are being dealt with. The theft of road signs, just the theft of road
because
signs.
the speed limit
it's rampant.
Will be on a sign.
Yeah, but they are those ones
if the sign is not there,
they are standard ones which we know as drivers.
Or like highways.
One of the things we are tackling in there is the training of drivers.
Oh yeah.
Particularly public service drivers. When it's a built-up area, a school, a trading center, a hospital, the speed limit is standard. As a driver, you are expected that when you are training to drive, you are told this. So even where there is a sign
but when there are no signs on the road,
you know that a built-up area, as a driver who is competent and was trained, that the speed limit has been 50, it has been reduced to 30. But we reach a town and somebody is shooting at 120. That is reckless.
But for God's sake, Richard, the signs are there for not only
to remind you.
Yes, not to assume that every driver or motorist on that road knows the speed limit of the road.
Defense. The lawyer will tell me. Your ignorance is not your defense.
Comrade Rugarama, I don't know if you can wind up in just 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, 3 minutes. One, I have been greatly disturbed by the level of indiscipline on our roads, especially in urban centers. I will come to the part of government, I hope in the 3 minutes. It is common to see a taxi parked on the traffic lights calling passengers. Now remember, when the lights signal green, all of you are supposed to be moving. Yeah. It is very common, and people will bear me witness, to see a number of taxis, even when you have been signaled green, for them, they are stopped and they are calling in passengers. Very common. Now, I don't know if that is going to be controlled by the speed and the 2 millions that we are talking about. Now, there is the other, I will not blame those who have come up with the 2 millions, because sometimes you get, your heart almost jumps out when somebody passes by in a vehicle going to, on highways, majority of the beat, whether it is taxis going to Mbare or Mbarara, the speed at which these brothers of mine drive is alarming. First of all, these vehicles, like my 2 colleagues have ably submitted, are in very bad mechanical condition. Then there are these ones they call, what is this?
Drone.
Drone. This drone, I had an opportunity of traveling in a drone when they said you have to pass via Simanyi, Sembabure, again where, then they gave a leeway here for these small vehicles. So I said, no, let me also test out these drones. But my friend,
what was the experience?
That thing behind, when you get behind the seat, the thing is like a wheelbarrow. I said, how can you drive this thing at the speed at which these people drive? Therefore, the 2 million is okay. Yeah. If it is going to make a contribution in averting what we have been seeing over a time. But that must be in collaboration with so many other things, because it may also give our enforcement officers the excuse of saying you either accept to, or if we move to court, then you know it is going to be 2 million. Now let me also end by, it happens, these things happen. Unfortunately, the patriotism and the Pan-African spirit is gone.
And you have to decide.
You have to decide the better devil. Yes. Whom do you move with? So then there is also the other aspect of part of our government. I think we have to tighten laws around officers entrusted with public responsibility, and they don't do it. I am looking around who can be taken to court quickly for the unfixed roads in Kampala, because we have more potholes than the clear roads. When it rains, it is a disaster. When you happen that you want to move, just moving on foot, which is very healthy, because people are suffering from all these ailments when they can just make simple exercises, and it has rained, be rest assured that they are going to splash water on you because the roads are full of. Now, can we begin taking people to court very quickly?
Thank you, comrade. And quickly, as we move on, Richard, The speed limit on highways, it is 100 kilometers per hour. Do you think that will be enforceable on, regarding what experience Comrade Rugarama gave us here with the drones and these big buses that ply these highway routes either to the west or the north and east, and we know the driving factor behind overspeeding. It is make more money, and we do not care about lives. Will they go with that speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour? You know it. You know the speed of your vehicle, and I don't know.
Yeah, you see, first of all, let me start with the driving factor. The driving factor, the major driving factor, there are many factors, of indiscipline of our roads is impunity. It's not making money, in my view. The greatest driver of indiscipline on our roads is impunity. Forget about making money. What is a senior secretary? They call them secretary, principal secretary, senior secretary in the Ministry of Rehabilitation. Is you driving a YouTube double cabin pickup at reckless speed to go and do what? To go and make which man? No, this is just reckless.
No, especially with these public service vehicles. I was relating to public service vehicles.
So there is the drone he's talking about. It is going to load as per schedule in the park at the other side. The number you book here, the number you book there. It is just impunity. We have impunity, we are untouchable. Yeah, we have become a society of impunity. Then it is fueled by inadequate lack of enforcement. One, you have Gambanogu. Some call from above will come. So a lot of the officers, I've told you that the Inspector General of Police gave me permission and the United Nations Association, now with the Road Safety Coalition, to go now and work with the police units, the training, the traffic, the public relations, the community liaison, to understand the provisions of the law, the amended, the regulations that are up. You know, Uganda now has a national road safety action plan. It was just approved, I think, was just signed last month, launched last month, last month maybe. And we have these things in place, but they are not yet known. So we are moving to get them known. I can also tell you that through efforts of the civil society, the other lobbyists, the government of Uganda, actually, the Ministry of Works has received a few hundred million from the Bill and Melinda Gates. No, not Bill and Melinda Gates, Bloomberg, through two organizations. We have grantees now. I think we have 6 CSOs that have maybe more than $1 billion for road safety. For us, we are making efforts. We are fighting. We are trying to make a Pan-African group for road safety.
But with the impunity you mentioned,
yes,
will those efforts yield anything?
No question about it. You see, the first and most important for us is for you, the driver. The first and most important intervention is for you, the driver. That you realize that when you go to the road with impunity, you pay the ultimate price. What you need to address that. But you know, education and mass mobilization without enforcement is sometimes like music to the people. So we have to strengthen enforcement. That's why we are going to the police force now. So we are also going to the police force. But now the law also allows the gazetting of all the other enforcement officers to also be enforcement officers for road safety. So the KCC enforcement, the whatever, within their jurisdictions. You talked about the infrastructure. Yes, the infrastructure is one of the
narrow roads, the potholes,
is one of
roads everywhere.
Yeah, is one of the things. But if you look at the pothole road of what do you call it, industrial area, it does not have the highest incidence of accidents, of crashes. We don't even call
That's
it
what I was going to tell you. That in Kampala, the speed limit is automatic. You don't need a sign.
Unfortunately. But those roads with the highest number of potholes actually don't have the highest number of road crashes. That is the other thing. So you see, there is a lot of science that you have to go in and do. But for me, I can tell you, you must have instruments of enforcement in order to have enforcement. Then you deal with the issues of corruption and the other things that will happen. But there has to be deterrence, and it has to be anchored in the law.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much, our viewers. You will be joining in the discussion by sending your comments on 0701 609906. Be part of the discussion that is going on. Tell us what you think about all these and other issues. Well, we'll be reading out those messages in the next hour. We have 1 or 2 minutes to go for a break. But Gerard, you can conclude, make a quick conclusion on this whole matter. And we gave it time because many Ugandans we have lost many lives on the roads. And
we are on the roads every day. We are potential victims.
Yes, and
you don't have to be reckless yourself.
No.
Somebody else will come and
absolutely,
and finish you.
ram into you.
Exactly. Actually, even if you take care, you yourself, if you decide to take care, then somebody will
come and finish you.
Will come and finish you.
Sometimes you think that probably 90% of our population are crazy people.
but we have told you about mental health the other day. We are saying the millions.
I was going to talk about the 14 million. Maybe the statistics are less.
Is it
because
is it Subaru that makes people mad, or the people who are
driving Subaru? I have a very narrow corner when I'm going home. And it's called Kavule. Before I branch off to Chirinya, you know that corner is too narrow, and there are always traffic officers down there. But we have there the Siane brothers, these ones of Sino trucks. Jesus Christ, I don't know what those people smoke.
Those big trucks.
They are bullies on the road.
They know
you can do nothing. They are huge.
Exactly.
You to stop.
So I had to do a side because the guy was overtaking in the corner, and then he showed me that I'm totally useless. He decided to increase. We almost had a head-on.
No, I agree now with Richard. That is impunity.
Yes.
But also impunity mixed up with disregard for lives of people. Because I remember when these big buses were first introduced in Uganda, I remember they were the big bullies, the big boys on the road. And they killed very many people. Well, gentlemen, we need to go for a break, but viewers, when we return, we'll also be looking at those big topics in the events that made headline this week. We have to look at quickly look at a report in the media that showed that at least one Karimajong is killed every day in the ongoing disarmament exercises in northern Uganda. I think it is a disturbing statistic there.
Who is commanding there now?
The report also indicates that even in the last week, and this was the police spokesperson Enanga, that 8 Karimajong were shot dead in only the past week. It raises questions on the execution of that disarmament exercise, how it is going on.
The methods.
Yeah, the methods. We'll go for a break, but we'll return after a short while. Welcome from the break. This is The Dialogue. My name is Prince Apollo. Dr. Gerard Wanzara, a researcher, is in the studios. Richard Baguma, a communication expert, in the studios. But our special guest this morning, Dr. Daniel Rugarama, a Pan-Africanist and the chairperson for the Pan-African movement at that, is in the studios also looking at the big events of the week. It is the Daily Monitor which reported, and basing on the annual police crime report, that at least one Karimajong is killed each day in the ongoing disarmament exercise by UPDF and police in northern Uganda. Disturbing statistic there, but of course we have also to appreciate the achievements the disarmament exercise have already registered, and every time a lot and actually many guns are being picked and recovered through this exercise, which also gives hope that possibly the gun violence in northern Uganda will somehow subside. And according to the police spokesperson, Mr. Inanga, 852 guns were recovered during the past 2 years. 852 guns were recovered, but he also said that 8 people were shot and killed in just the past week. Well, like we said before we went for a break, this raises questions on how the exercise is being conducted, and Richard Bakuma will take the first shot on this particular matter. What do you think? From the statistics, the Kalimajonga around 1.3 million. That is about 3% of the whole population of Ugandans. But if each day a Kalimajonga dies, then that is not. Anyway, start from there.
Okay. So, the Baganda are how many? 6, 7 million? How many of them do have their cows raided every day? How many of them do have their daughters raped or their mothers abducted regularly? So first of all, this comparison of population, I think, is out of context.
Okay.
I think the context must be taken into consideration. You see, I don't know if you remember, I think I have narrated to you that myself, I was almost shot in Karamoja.
Oh.
Yeah, I was going to there as a journalist to report in my earlier days, really Uganda television. Yeah, and there was an ambush. So, and I left active journalism in March. This March, I was commemorating 20 years ago when I left being a salaried journalist and went to do now this what I do. So this conflict is not of yesterday. No, and so this. So that's one, because it's very critical that the statistic of the 600 or something people that have died, I think, over the 2 years, be taken into account, because those are too many. One life is too many. 600 are too many over 2 years. So I think that's where the one person per day came from. However, what I also would like to know is how many women have been raped over the 2 years. How many have been abducted? How many houses have been burnt? How many civilians have been killed by the rustlers? So how many soldiers have been killed? Because you see, I don't remember if we got the same headline, maybe we did. When were they 5 or 6? The geologists and their escorts were killed. There are 8 who died in 1 week, but the other ones died in 1 day. So how many died in that week when these ones were killed? And so sometimes the comparisons have to be contextual. It is very critical, and it's an important issue that we pay attention to the hundreds that are dying in this operation. It is also critical and important, I think, to balance that with how many are dying as a result of the actions of the rustlers, as how many are being raped, how many houses are being burnt, how many livelihoods are being destroyed. I think it's important that these things come out too in the public. That's one. Two, some of the deaths actually that were being talked about, some of them are not even Karamojong. No, people are not talking about the Turkana that are crossing.
Pokot.
The Pokot. Pokot I think are also a bit Karamojong, but on the other side, the people on the other side, I think there is a story wider in that region, and it's been going on for decades. In fact, one of the things that motivated me to go to Karamoja when I became a young journalist and I was going is, when I was younger, I used to hear this statement that we shall not wait for Karamoja to develop. Uganda will not wait for Karamoja to develop. But I used to wonder it intrigued me. It's a very beautiful place, a lot of peaceful people, a lot of many suffering people. And so I think we need to pay attention to that. So the statistic is critical, but the counter statistics, the other story, I think, Apollo, we need to dig into that story. That's first. Second is the methods that are being used to counter. Sometimes when a helicopter comes, comes shooting,
it's shoots in,
it could be indiscriminate.
Indiscriminate.
Yes, it could be indiscriminate. I remember one of the people who was in charge of security in this country was Dr. Wirike's boss, my friend, David Krukol. His brother was shot, according to the stories I've had, in very suspect circumstances. So I think the Karamoja story needs to be paid attention to. I think, in fact, the president has been paying attention, more attention than we realize on Karamoja and his brother and his son. And you know, when it was his wife as minister, it was his son going down, it was his brother who camped there, himself bringing, let me tell you where you read the president sometimes, is that he brings the commanders of his own elite force to command the operations there. Don Navasa was commander of SFC. Busizori was commander of SFC. They are the two people at the helm. You see the importance that this attached. Now, will that change the violence? Or will it increase it in any way? I don't know. There's another comment that his son gave. We have told you, we have asked you, we have appealed to you, now hellfire is coming. It's something that has also been referred to. But one thing I've talked, finally, really, one thing I have talked about in this program and other programs that I appear on is the underlying wealth that, by the way, has been talked about and attracted global attention. And it has historically done this, of the wealth of Karamoja.
The natural resources.
The mineral wealth of Karamoja. I told you that I used to ask, how come they are functional flight ways, aerodromes, airstrips? How come they are functional airstrips in Karamoja? Who is funding them? What is the interest?
That is the big question. There.
We need to ask these questions, Apollo. And put them in the wider context of the security of that region, plus the insecurity in the neighboring regions.
But as I cross over to Dr. Gerard Were-Wanzala, good you've been in the media. The question about the how this disarmament exercise is being conducted is not new. It has been a perennial, I mean, a critical issue. And Gerard.
So we need to ask, how is rearmament happening? We also need to ask that.
For clarity, this statistic comes from 619 Karimajong who were killed in the past 2 years. So the Daily Monitor came up with this statistic that at least
and probably those are official figures.
The official from the annual crime report.
So what are the unofficial figures?
No, from the annual police crime report.
So maybe it's higher.
So, Dr. Gerard, do you find this statistic, disturbing or?
Well, I would look at it in two ways. One, the context in Karamoja is that you know how a gun operates. You can have two guns in this area, Lunguja, and it can do a lot of havoc on the population.
Even one.
Of course, I'm not condoning what the killing of Karamojongs, but also in the context that the ordinary people are carrying guns, and these guns target fellow citizens as well as the soldiers who are coming the enforcers of the law. So the situation can be very bad. But as Africa Leadership Institute, in the previous disarmament, where I got the experience to be part of in Karamoja, we discovered that again the numbers were very, very high because the nature of operation was not intelligence-led. Okay, at that time the population was very hostile, not friendly with the army, and therefore the army was just using the cordon and search approach, where you go raid the place,
you round up
on suspicion, you round up, and then sometimes there's exchange of bullets, And then because there is exchange of bullets, you suspect there are many weapons, and then you respond with
fire.
Excessive force. At the end of the day, you find that maybe you have only recovered one gun, which was causing havoc in that area, but a number of people have been killed. So we came with an innovation under the European Instrument for Peace. We got funding from the European Union and implemented something we call the Civil Military Cooperation Project, CIMIC. Now what were we doing? One was that we needed to strengthen the relationship between the trust between the population and the army. And therefore the approach was that we also discovered that Karimojong by nature were not respecting the elected political leaders. They attached more respect to the traditional leaders, who include the Manyata leaders, the witch doctors, there is what they call, grand aggregates. They have their layer. So when we approached it in that form, we started where we could hold these community peace meetings, and then we even slaughter bulls, and then the Karimojong share with the army, with the UPDF. So, and then in some of those events, we managed to buy the support of the people.
If I may ask, to what extent have those civic military relations efforts achieved their target?
At that time, we reduced bloodshed. We discovered, we educated the UPDF. We developed what we called the Human Rights Code of Conduct in disarmament, and then trained the UPDF officers. So in every district, there was a civil military cooperation soldiers who are working hand in hand with us and the community. So we started having these traditional leaders mobilizing the warriors to surrender guns. And therefore that one significantly reduced on the bloodshed. But also there is something that we mentioned to the government at that time, because as civil society we usually have very little money. For us, the approach was, how do we ensure sustainable peace? People don't go, we called it from gun to money economy. That you create a certain project to skill the Karachunas, they are able to learn how maybe to do business, and then they abandon stealing.
And then you steal their mabati.
Now this is the problem.
Steal their goods.
Yes, for us the approach was that educate them, train them, then empower them. But of course the approach of Mabat is different, because if you give someone Mabat and you have not changed the mindset, they will listen and sell them to the Trukanas, and they will again go back to the guns.
They were not stolen, they were misallocated.
So now, recently I'm happy I've seen that approach coming back. By the way, 2019, 2020, that approach was not there. It was purely military again. But I think with the General Salim Saleh's camping there, I have seen the approach change with the new commanders from the SFC. Recently, I saw them addressing huge meetings.
So you think you are hopeful this trend will change?
I believe it's going to change. Good. Because like Richard articulated, the level of attachment the president has, has put, I believe it will change. Honestly, it is not easy to have sustainable peace where people have grown up for decades in the life of stealing from each other, killing each other, raping each other. So, but it's unfortunate that we are losing that number of Ugandans. But also, take note that a similar number dies of hunger every year in that same place. But of course, you cannot address other problems entirely when there is insecurity.
And actually that gives you a faint picture of what actually is happening on the ground. If 619 were killed by security enforcers on the ground, then you also factor in what happened to this side of the enforcers, how many lives were lost or injured.
Absolutely.
Then you also think of the collateral.
Collateral damage.
Yes, the collateral damage. And then you factor in also the issue of hunger and famine, like Doctor said, then you know that it is
like I told you, Richard knows, if you go to Karamoja, even now, you will find there what they call protected kraals, where the UPDF now collect cattle from the owners, and then soldiers sleep in the kraals guarding the cattle. because then you find criminals coming in large numbers to come and attack the soldiers.
Actually, you have also to factor in the numbers of lives that are lost within the raids and within themselves.
We have also been accused of putting some of those animals on the tracks.
Dr. Daniel Rugarama.
I heard of an elder man from Karamoja who followed his cows up to Lufura.
Really? But we have to appreciate His Excellency the President. I think even this week he met the Kalachunas and he issued a statement. You saw it.
Yes.
He's also looking at the soft power in enforcing this particular exercise for the Karimajong to abandon their custom of raiding and possibly look for other economic ways of living. Dr. Rugarama, give us your view on this particular disturbing statistic. One Karimajong at least every day, killed every day.
When NRA and NRM was coming into power, part of the original 10 points program contained therein one other among the 10 objectives, the 10 points. So one of the points was peace and security. It is therefore not, nobody is going to win prizes here for retaliating the main backbone of NRM as a provider of peace and security, not just within the country Uganda, but also we know the government as exporting the same to outside countries, at least the neighbors. Of course, somebody seated on another part of the fence wishing to look at that differently will go ahead and do it and call it being ambitious and exporting wars and that kind of thing. But that's the freedom of speech. Now the truth remains the truth, that Uganda has stabilized her neighbors, and that is part of the Pan-African agenda. But most important also, the patriotism on the part of this leadership. And when I say so, I do not mean that the NRM does not have its weaknesses. They are there and we know them. But it does not stop us, again, from pointing out the strengths, especially where we have seen them and where we have noted them carefully. It is in that spirit that it is very difficult for the president to let Karamoja remain a failed part of his leadership. It is impossible that, it is unfortunate, first of all, that we have continued to see pockets of insecurity, sometimes that spill over into famine, like we recently had famine in that part of the country, fertile and mineral rich as it is, but we continue to register such numbers, including death and out of famine or outright exchange of bullets. But I wish that we, and I invite us, to take cognizance of the fact that here we have a situation of porous borders. Now Karamoja, the Karamajongs themselves, because of that stretch that borders Kenya, the Turkana, the Pokots from the other side will come and also do counter raid. Now when their animals are taken by culture, they will want to revenge and either prevent the animals from crossing or go and capture
and recover
and even recover what is not theirs and also bring it back. Now when that fails and maybe the army comes in to prevent them from making incursions into Kenya, then they will go to my brother here, Peter Gwang's place. I've been discussing with Peter Gwang because I see him keeping cows, and I'm like, I'm praying for, because they are going to come for them. Said, no, I'm now better prepared. He said, but you see, you are prepared because you're a minister and an MP. What about your colleagues? But the point I'm making there is that, and I think he was the one actually among other MPs and leaders who were raising that concern that they need that high level protection. The point that was made by both of my colleagues here is that about civic education. Part of my, actually I think my component, my PhD component, the biggest component was civic education. Now, the civic education is one other area that has been greatly neglected, and yet it is the biggest weapon, even in warfare. Well, this one they call propaganda and what have you.
Just 1 minute, because I'm running, this machine is running out. Good morning, Apollo and the panelists. Greetings and morning to Baguma and Wanzara. I want to agree with Dr. Wanzara that there is need to educate the Kalimajong and equip them with skills of development in order to change their mindset of raiding as a way of this. He's a Kampumuza Abel, and he says, I am watching. I want to read these few messages as we move on. Good morning. On the first topic, the judicial officer, I don't know whether our African culture, where our African culture is heading. Something even a primary kid knows is that a woman is when is legally married and passes away, it's not debatable about her burial press. I wonder why the people prefer to run to court instead of trying arbitration. And he says, now how is the family of the husband looking at the in-laws and the kid is going to court against the wishes of daddy? On the motorists, the fine of 2 million, I think it's not another project for some big fish in government to harvest from the public. I think we need to have body cameras on the law enforcement officers, otherwise this is going to be abused. Consensus of someone getting even 200K when not being seen is more likely to happen than forwarding the case to court. It's Otim Major Joel in Chirinya, Bokasa. Thank you so much. Keep those messages coming in, viewers, and this is the dialogue.
Beautiful messages, I must say. Now, and we said this really, so they are viewing, they are watching. The beautiful
it's a sample of the feedback that is coming in.
Beautiful audience. Now, but I said my two colleagues here have correctly observed, and I was telling you that part of my...
But I wanted to ask you, you're talking about, you called it civic education or awareness?
Yes, the civic education.
Why has all these years that not worked?
No, I don't think, when NRA was coming, was in the bush. The element of civic education, which these senior comrades called propaganda, is part of what we call civic education. Now, civic education or civic awareness is such a huge component. In the Electoral Commission, for instance, they have what we call
voter education,
which they also don't do well. But civic education is much more, because civic education goes, for instance, to the extent to inform that particular voter why he should vote, and not necessarily how, no, why. That's a very important question. Such that this voter apathy, voter turning around to the ability for you to be persuaded to go and reasons for you to go and vote. So you find that a big percentage is not going to the polling stations to vote, because there is that voter apathy. They see no reason as why they should do it. In the same manner, somebody driving the speed that we are talking about here is really not civically aware of what he is going to occasion other road users. The element of the Karamajong has us having realized that there is we have got a case of porous borders. Because if you tell me that you have so far collected well over 800,000 something guns, now where are these
in
other
the space
guns,
of 2 years?
Where are these other guns coming from? Who is arming them? You see, that is another question, and it is a very important question. It means there is because it is not like cassava that guns are grown. If these ones have been eaten, they are going to grow more guns. It means that across the border, they have got a source where they are getting these guns. Now, these porous borders. Now, but an educated mind a school, a mind that has been civically alerted that it is no longer fashionable for you to hold a gun, and you put in place alternative means. Because you see, like I have always argued, it is not enough for me from the Pan-African point of view to say it is not helpful for you to watch Arsenal and Man U. What have I put in place to persuade you that this alternative I have brought is better than you watching Arsenal and Man U? In the same way, this NRM that I know fairly well maybe cannot allow to fail on impacting positively on the Karamojong by providing the alternative, most suitable alternative to
in your opinion, to what extent has the NRM, you said it, has, I mean, moved to solve the Karamoja problem?
At one time, there was almost no presence of children going to school in Karamoja. We all know that. The UPE program is succeeding in Karamoja, despite the presence of raiding and what have you. We had no stable, concentrated population going about organized work like farming and cattle keeping, which this particular government is achieving. The road network was also extremely very poor. We know very well now. Towns are coming up, and that amidst...
So it is work in progress.
Yeah, it's work in progress indeed. Like I have always told people again, that those who say that the African Union is a toothless dog and others call it no dog at all, must appreciate why it was, yes, why it was formed and what it achieved when it was formed, and it is work in progress.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. Dr. Gerard, as we wind up on this particular issue, I want you to react to Richard's assertion that possibly the economic gains may be undercutting the efforts of disarmament in that region. And he asked a question, himself a question, and left it hanging. How comes in Karamoja there are those airstrips and what, and who actually maintains them?
Of course, there are some, how do I call it, sharp economic hunters who have gone to Karamoja, but I will not directly relate them to stealing cattle. Like I've had allegations that some commanders load the animals and they bring them to Kampala. Around 2011, when we were in Karamoja, one elder man who was accusing some commanders of stealing cattle followed a truck of cows and identified these cows here in Rufura, Old Portobello Road. And the president is aware.
And he did not sell them to anyone.
The president is aware. He later met that man.
That was 20?
I think around 2011, 2010, around there. And the president met that gentleman and spoke to him. And indeed, there was evidence. So I cannot rule out that certain indisciplined characters could be involved in this. But also, we are talking about the new economics of Karamoja, especially with the mining industry. Of course, it's also coming with its challenges, but the challenges I know relate to land rights, because if you are coming to mine an area, then you need significant amounts of land
rights.
So what do you do with the local communities? We have one model we did in Rupa, in Moroto, in Rupa sub-county, where we helped the clan register a community trust. And then now, through this community trust, they're negotiating with the Mebo mining company, with the cement, Atekere cement, to ensure that they are resettled. And when they are resettled, the trust also holds 5% shareholding in the emerging economy, so the community does not end at zero displacement, and then the next day they are gaining the cows. So if such initiatives can be supported by government itself, then we can see sustainable peace
in Karamoja.
Otherwise, if we only leave it to the capitalists, they will take whatever they want out. Like now, land is an issue. We know that land there is community owned. But now people are processing land titles. It's a big problem, and actually it's a time bomb.
Okay, Richard, in 3 minutes, wind up on this matter.
I'm glad that Dr. Wirike brought the issue of land. You see, we are not relating the increasing insecurity to the marginalization of the population through denying them access to land. One of the ways, by the way, is being appropriated is saying this is for NFA, this is for UA. That is one of the major ways, one of the vehicles of grabbing it. Then the second one is this mining.
It's a gazetted wildlife.
These mining things. Now, you see, when I have been, and this is the transformation that has happened in our coding shows wherever, when you are taking over people's land, then you have to equip them with different agronomical methods of doing this. The second thing is really the looting. It is this looting culture that we have. The things that Dr. Wirike was talking about, which were piloted, the technocrats, these technocratic looters who really are occupying our offices, who do this year in, year out. The third group that I question, and they need us to be questioned, I belong to that group, is the civil society groups. We have had millions through the donor groups and the civil society groups. Going to Karamoja, honestly, how can we account?
Yeah.
Where are these millions? The EU, I don't know what, 70 million. The UN, I don't know what. UNICEF, I don't know what. And then we come. The NGOs, I don't want to say their names, they will go box me that I'm maligning them. What are you doing in Karamoja?
So you're dissatisfied with the outcome of the effort that has been put in by all key stakeholders.
How much money are we putting into taking back the children on our streets from Karamoja? How can you have a budget annually? One of the ministries here has a budget annual of a few billions to take back the children. What kind of nonsense is this? So really, we have made it a looting zone. We have turned it into a money minting zone, and now we are looking to take over that resource called land.
Exactly.
And really finish off this population. So we must. And for me, I am really hoping that because of political, of wanting to keep power, and we're wanting to keep that region voting at 100 or 99% that he has been doing, I'm hoping that the president will, with honesty, will not be taken over, captured by the capitalists. He's been captured by a capitalist a lot, my president. I keep saying this. I am hoping the capture is also not going to continue.
Wow.
In this region.
For God's sake, Kalemajonga, Ugandans, and we have to do everything to support them in any way, whatever happens.
Probably a statement here, my brother Apollo. Chinwachebe writing about his country, Nigeria, and this is what he had to say, that the problem with Nigeria is leadership. That could pass for Africa or any other place. I want to submit to us that the problem we have at different levels, by the way, forget about the president, is leadership crisis.
But he's the leader of this country. Viewers, we have to switch gears, and we only have like 15 minutes to handle this issue. The director for public prosecutions this week closed 17 case files, and these files are related to the Iron Sheets scandal, again on Karamoja. I don't know what is happening with Karamoja. 3 files, of course, these include the file of Honorable Maria Gorach Tutu and Honorable Agnes Nandutu and Amos Lugorobi were committed to the High Court. But she says that she has other 3 case files she's still handling, and she refused, she declined naming who are on those files. Dr. Gerald Werewanzala, you'll tell us what you think. Is it concluded now? Is it yet to be concluded?
You know,
what is happening? 17 case files closed.
You know, Apple.
I said they should investigate whether if it's not a beneficiary.
When this, I'm not whom we you know, if you follow how this matter was evolving at what we discussed here, the investigations and what has happened, including those who have been taken to court, is exactly how we discussed the statement by the president, which was addressed to the Bazukulu on Twitter, when he said there are those who are directly held responsible, that you go and do this, then they deliberately steal. And that's now the group of Agnes, the group of the Honorable Kitutu, and others. Are those ones, it amounted to subversion, and therefore those will be prosecuted. Then he had a group that there are those who receive unconsciously. Maybe I come from Bunyoro, and I thought that there are iron sheets for Bunyoro, Ministry for Bunyoro. I wrote and requested, and I was given. So he said, those ones, I will take political action. Then there is a way, and if you follow, you can see that the 3 were taken. We also told you that some technocrats were also going to follow the 3, and they were arrested. You saw them, I think 2 weeks back.
Still on the run.
On the run. And actually the technocrats pocketed money, they sent money to their accounts, majorly money for logistics, and that was it. So I'm not shocked, I'm not surprised, but I also cautioned that for political reasons, certain files may remain open at the DPP.
For political reasons?
Yes, in the event that you become stubborn. I use the Luganda analogy that omusango teguvunda. It will be used against. But I also told the public that you cannot arrest the whole cabinet. The president cannot allow the whole cabinet to collapse. But it must be seen to be an exogenous crisis. Exactly. It must be seen to be doing some action.
Do you now, from your submission, I don't know if you can conclude telling us whether justice has been served from this, I mean at this level.
I will not critique what the judiciary is doing, but of course the public might view it as selective prosecution, because they think that there are some ministers who disbursed money from the ministries for disbursing money, who received a big share, and therefore if the president doesn't, he may not prosecute, but if he doesn't also take political action, people are going to look at it as selective prosecution.
Dr. Comrade Rugarama, is justice being served in this case?
Yes. From the legal point of view, it is the mandate of the Director of Public Prosecutions to take up criminal matters and prosecute.
But her decisions can be also criticized.
There's no problem.
No question.
I'm coming to that. The problem we have is that majority of us, especially those of us who get opportunity to be hosted on media platforms of this nature, we want to sound politically correct. Everything has been politicized. In all fairness, Justice Abodo, as we know her, is one of the clear-headed persons we have in the legal system here. And with her team, of course, she doesn't work alone. Save for those who wished that, for instance, the Speaker of Parliament is prosecuted, is seen, is her car being diverted, taken to Chuvuri, sleeps at Ginger Road, and we like that. And I'm not the type that will come here and say that should have happened. If in the estimation of the DPP and her team, they looked at the file, looked at the evidence that was on the file, even sent the file back to police. They said, no, you go and investigate this, go and investigate this. And what came out in the opinion of the DPP was not sufficient for her to sustain the charges and prosecute, it is only wise that the charges are dropped. So there is absolutely no problem.
But you
with
agree,
dropping the charges.
you admit that the case, because the case involves high-profile persons in this country,
There are many cases.
somehow the decisions may not relate to justice as it is laid
that
for
possibility
in the books
is
of
there.
law.
But I'm discussing the law as it is supposed to be. I don't want to put it the way I want it to be. What is it exactly that it is? This is what it is. That when the DPP looks at the facts on the file and judges that I'm not going to be able to sustain this matter in court, it will just be a waste of time. It is in her place or his place, whoever it is, to drop the same. It doesn't matter what the political leaders out there are saying. It doesn't even matter whether the person in question is the Speaker of the Assembly National Parliament, is the Vice President, because there are so many other files out there which we do not know that have been discarded simply because there is no evidence to sustain the same charges and later on prosecute such cases.
Did you see political influence in this? In this latest decision by the DPP?
Like I said, for instance, politically speaking, would it make sense that the president should go, for instance, in the record Guinness Book of Records that
he's actually the cabinet.
He got the entire cabinet, and that is a cabinet crisis. Does it really make sense? And I'm not by saying that, I'm not suggesting that that was the case for the DPP to exonerate some people. I want to hold the DPP in high esteem because she deserves that anyway, that she has seen what is on record and she has correctly assessed and dropped the charges.
Richard, from the beginning you are on record that this was a chance for photos which will be taken showing the ministers being taken to Rosida, and it will end like that. I think that is what is on record as your opinion. Is it now done and dusted?
That was my assessment. And my assessments are sometimes fairly informed. One can call them speculative, but I told you at that time, I was on record to say, let's watch how this one goes, and we shall test it against what I have said on record at the beginning.
So you were right?
Well, probably. Probably I was. Because you see...
What did he say? We were not there.
I said we are tested.
We're witness.
Yeah, these two are witnesses. I said, you see, I am not a lawyer, but I associate myself with the legal statements of Dr. Rugaram. But I also want to stick to my political statements, that this is largely a political matter. The Mabati issue is a political issue. It is two. I said it's two. One is a political issue, then a second one is a technocratic routing issue. That these things are put in the budget, well knowing that they are going to go to do political mobilization work. How can Babati be the priority of the people in Karamoja? How could it be? But it passed. And the billions were put and released against budget constraints. And the Babati was stolen.
Maybe information there. There was a report that came from Karamoja region, and it was that the Karachunas, these boys,
former warriors,
they had a problem. And the problem was that they didn't have decent houses. And then they themselves asked, by the way, that they could have such kind of...
Thank you very much, I'm telling you, I have been a technocrat there, you have been there. We know how we generate these reports. The issues, they were issues that Dr. Wirikes raised. Then, There are issues that were raised, I told you when I were about ambushed earlier, that have been neglected.
Oh, why this time?
Why this particular one, which they are going to distribute to each other? How does it? So you see, for me, and I said, Apollo, these cases are going to come up. Let me tell you, why even talk about the DPP, the poor DPP? The files are killed at investigation level. Not at the DPP.
Absolutely.
So these files, when they were dead, and I had said here that these files will die.
She even sent the files back for further investigations, and what they brought was not good enough to...
You were asking what I said. I said these prosecutions cannot continue because we shall investigate them in a manner to defeat them.
Oh.
We had finished our photo opportunity. I said we need photo opportunities to show that we are fighting corruption. And then that allows us to have a political action. That's what has been recommended, to allow His Excellency, my president, my president, I keep saying, my senior old boy, my president, I have done many things. I support that man, I keep saying here, to bring in the people who have been close to supporting the Muhoozi group. They are going to come and have positions in cabinet. I said it again. We are going to see it. Just wait. You are saying the cabinet reshuffle is not coming. That one is coming. I tell you. You see.
I'm not part of that.
I'm not inviting you to be part. I am telling you that we are saying these things recorded and we shall cross-check them.
Yeah.
Has the position of Richard Biargawa been filled?
But he has been cleared.
I am saying, has it been filled?
It has
not yet.
Why?
Even the...
What did I say? Didn't we say he's going to be cleared?
He has been cleared.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So for me, how can we be here? I was telling these words that I attempted to be part of the NRA in 1984. I was what, 14? I have been here.
So you know how the game was played.
I look at trends and assess them, and for me, I don't fear to make public predictions. I make them.
Toti Abduduma.
Okay. our time is really running out, but we have at least 3 minutes to wind up. Dr. Gerard Wanzala, make your parting short, and I mean, as at the look of the events unfolding, what do you think, or what could be your prediction?
Relating to
like Richard said, it is from what I pick from his submission, it is a premeditated move to purge the leadership of some institutions and it's wholly political matter.
I actually associate with that thinking because if you, even the matter we have just discussed, if you look at what the president committed, he said he will take political action. I want to believe that the president is going to take political action on cabinet. I also believe that he has told here about how money for LODUs was being stolen in Karamoja and for stock theft unit when we went around. And you saw the commander was changed, so I believe a number of things, deployments in the security services are going to happen. And of course, and other related agencies. Maybe lastly, the people from Bugisu, Buganda, Ankole, when they go for Cheyo and other tribes, I've just used those as examples. Maybe Cheyo is Middle East, China, Europe, and so forth. But Karamoja, it disturbs me that the Cheyo is on the street begging, right from Soroti to Mbale, to Jinja, to here, the Karamojong child is suffering. It's high time we designed interventions that change Karamoja.
Good.
Not conduits for stealing public money.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grama. Just 1 minute and a parting shot.
The political climate in Uganda is highly charged. That everything is over-politicized. It is incumbent upon this leadership to make good majority of her promises and start delivering so that people can get engaged and de-escalate on the politicization.
Thank you so much. Richard, You told us we should be every time waiting for a cabinet reshuffle, but it's not forthcoming.
What does it help you?
Your parting shot.
For you, what does it help you? No, I'm not asking you about what does it help you when it happens. Those ones it helps, it is going to come. My parting shot. One is we must work to keep Karamoja voting 90% and above.
Oh.
That one we must work, keep doing. So that's the work on the table, and we have to keep working at it. 2026 is not too far away. So that's one. Two, please don't die on the road. Just kindly, please don't die on the road, but don't kill us. Don't kill others on the road. Road safety is our responsibility number one. We are the first responsible people before we go to the enforcers. And let's allow the enforcers to punish us when we break the law.
Good. Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much for sticking with us for all these 2 hours. My name is Prince Apollo. I wish you a splendid weekend, but I promise you, today is the first day of the new financial year. A lot will be coming up, and like Richard said, 2016 is drawing nearer every day. 2026 is drawing nearer every day, and politics will be becoming hot, and the panel will be here to analyze and make those critical analysis about the issues happening. Let's meet again next Saturday. I have to thank the panel, the production, and everyone who has been behind this particular edition. Good afternoon and a good week ahead.